Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday, and welcome to this week's edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Not for episode 15. Made a mistake with that, actually. It's episode 16 of the Buffaloes podcast here on gshow.ca and G-Show Productions. I'm your host, Graham, the G-Show Forsyth. Bear with me here as we end up fixing our sponsors as well, in terms of where they're placed. And Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, thank you to them for sponsoring another edition of the Buffaloes podcast, your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. As you can see there with their website now visible, be sure to check out their website as well at mccanfasteners.shop and their store locations in Brandon and Winnipeg today. Also brought to you by Terrico, serving Manitoba producers for over 80 years in the agricultural industry. If you want to check out what they have to offer today in terms of why they're so trusted, be sure to check out their website at terrico.ca. And to Goaltenders, the brand of this week's only guest in Gordie Tumilson. Pretty cool brand. It's a goalie's personal video review service. For more information on what exactly the specifics are about this goaltending service, be sure to check out their website at gordietumilsongoalies.ca. But in terms of the past games for the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, well, the teams have been in action, all four of them, this weekend throughout Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, playing in the different places they're playing. Starting off with, just taking a look at some of the schedules from these teams. The U15s, they've played 3 games at this point. Same with the U17s, as they were in Pilot Mound and Caronport, Saskatchewan this weekend. We'll get you the updates of all of the scores and how the weekend went down for these two teams coming up. But to start off the show, joining me first up is Gordie Tumilson, of course, to talk about those games as we previewed them. Also talking about the games they played before this past week, or this current week of hockey, weekend of hockey that these teams are playing in the academy. We talk about all 4 teams in the academy. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is from Friday, so it's a bit outdated now, but enjoy, everybody. Should still be a good one with Gordie Tumilson. Joining me first here on the Buffaloes podcast, of course, is the only guest on the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast, brought to you by Terrico, Goaltenders, and Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools. Gordie Tumilson, weekly guest here on the Buffaloes podcast, joining to talk about the past games this time around, as well as the upcoming games. I guess we'll start on the present, Gordie. You were just telling me you were watching the male U18 team today play against the Rink Hockey Academy, and things kind of went awry in that first period for the U18s. Take us through what you were witnessing earlier on today.
Well, game's still ongoing, but it's probably in the second period now. But for the first 30 minutes, it was 3-0 for the Rink, and I thought it was a good game. We had a few shots in their net. They had some shots at our goal. They're certainly a much better team and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, it was like a bomb went off in the building. And in about a minute and 30 seconds, a minute and 40 seconds, it was 3 goals by the Rink, and it was 6-0, and then there was a couple more later on, and it was just a mess. So Quinn Burfoot started our game, was playing really, really well, but a bunch of breakaways and 2-on-1s, and that ended his evening or afternoon. And Josh Hope is now playing goal for us, and he made a bunch of big saves before they got one on him. So yeah, that Rink Academy program, they've got a couple really good teams in there. They're at U15 group and this group here. So and if you make a boo-boo, they're putting it behind or they're putting it on the net anyway. And if your goalie can't make 2 or 3 key saves quick, it's all over. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd like to check the standings. I'm sure this RHA Bologna team very good. It's just can't exactly access them right now for some reason on the CSSHL's website. But talking about the Buffaloes U18 program, the past games before this one, the past 3, I believe if the site is correct, it's been wrong before, Pilot Mound Hockey Academy's website, but a 5-4 win last week against the Wenatchee Wild Hockey Academy, and then drop in the next 2 games, 5-0 and then 11-2 to Rink Hockey Academy Kelowna. The assessment for the past Weekend of games for the Academy, a bright spot getting that win over Wenatchee Wild.
Oh, of course, Wenatchee's sort of in our realm, and the league made a decision a few years ago to go all prep, and of course that just meant they took the varsity program out, which was just an A-B thing, I guess, whatever you want to call it. It did separate the two, the better teams and the not so better teams. They put them all in the same hat, and they've tried to kind of mix and match a little bit better this year. However, when you get those really good teams that are funded or supported by the Western Hockey League in a big way, our players are almost not quite, but almost assigned to these other teams. It kind of puts the smaller rural teams like ours and Notre Dame and Prairie and other places like that kind of in a bad spot. And so you're scrambling because this is a second year team for us, so we're still kind of in our infant stage there, and that's a double whammy. So we don't have as good a games as we'd like to have with those big teams. However, that being said, if our teams weren't getting better themselves, we would be, we'd be further on the bad end of the score. So whereas we're losing, by 11-0 is a bad score, but it would be 20-0 if our teams weren't better because the other teams are getting better.
Yeah.
And so we're managing to stay with them at whatever level we can. But beating Wenatchee is good, and it was a great game, and so both teams probably felt pretty good about it. We got the 2 points, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of foolish that they took away the two levels, Gordy, because like you think about it, yeah, you want to go up against the best, but think about the skill level on these teams compared to a team in small town Pilot Mound who is, like you said, young in their existence, only 2 years in. I feel like, more games like they played against Wenatchee, that type of competition is huge for Pilot Mound to build that confidence and to build that skill level because as nice as it's been to play against these top teams, feel like it's definitely bigger for the confidence when you're able to go up against those teams you have more of a chance to play against. Wonder if the CSSHL will ever get back to splitting it up into two divisions again, Gordy. But for this U18 group, they played RHA today, still in progress in that game. It's about to wrap up,
Yep.
I'm sure, in just a bit here, but playing against the South Alberta Hockey Academy tomorrow, and that'll do it for their weekend. But that game at home for the Buffaloes, we talk about how huge home ice is all the time here. Going to be huge for them going up against another quality opponent, I'm sure.
Well, it's always a bonus to play at home, and there's not the 2 hours drive minimum to Winnipeg or somewhere else. And so that's a good thing. Yeah, and it's always fun to play in front of the friends and schoolmates that come out to the game. So there's somewhere usually between 100 and 200 people at our games, and we like to put on as the best show we possibly can. And it's always good to not to have to drive somewhere to play a hockey game. So good on us, and we'll do the best we can. Yeah, back to that business with the varsity and the prep and the splitting the divisions and all that stuff. Yes, there was an issue. Parents didn't want their kids playing in a B division. They want, if they're going to spend a lot of money on. But then there's the other side of it. As soon as you lose the game by 11-0, the same parents are screaming at you. Well, why don't we have a better team? Where do you get the better players from? Help us out. Find us a better player than maybe your kid is. So it's kind of tough being in a rural situation like we are, but we do our best, and the kids always come out better, and that's the important thing. It's not about winning championships, and we always say that. We'd like to, but only one team does, and so 9 or 10 or 20 other teams don't win the championship. So everybody else is unhappy. One team is happy, and but all of our players get better. And that's what we're there for. We're here there for player development and not necessarily team championships. There you go.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think it's a good lesson that yes, you may be paying a lot of money, but that doesn't always mean that boom, you're going to be successful against those teams that
Hmm.
are really darn talented and, of course, have more reputation built in the U18 level since this is, of course, only Pilot Mound's second year in that
Yep.
age level, in that age group in the CSSHL. But fantastic news in terms of anyone out there that enjoys seeing the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy win the U17s last weekend, Gordie, winning not once, not twice, but three times, defeating the North Shore Warriors four times, also beating the Rink Hockey Academy Kelowna Red team before that, beating Notre Dame, beating Delta Hockey Academy Black. Uh, Talk about this, Gordie. What went down for this team to come out and play arguably their best hockey of the season?
Well, again, this is where that split is, that the league, and the league is trying to make this a little bit of a change this year. There are league meetings going on; they have gone on, and there's more discussion about these kinds of. And we're not the only team that gets beat by a lot or wins by a lot. So, but as far as the U17s are concerned, there are kind of like two loops, and we were playing in our more competitive loop, I guess, and lo and behold, 4 wins. So there you go. We were pressed in three of the 4 games, but our kids came out on top. We got enough goal scoring, we got enough goaltending and good defensive hockey to come out winners, and so we felt good about that. And our players, of course, get better playing those games, just as like they would get better playing against the upper echelon as well.
Yeah, and for this Buffaloes team, beating the Rink Hockey Academy Red team, which is just a few points ahead of them. And yeah, beating teams, like you said, Gordy, in their realm. But to do it in close fashion, to win decisively as well, against teams that on paper you should be able to beat. Does that just speak to what these boys are doing, can work against teams like that?
Well, the whole deal is it's player development. I said that before. I'll say it a million more times. And our kids get better, and because they're on the ice every day, literally every day that they're not saying traveling, they're on the ice, whether they're playing a game or they're practicing. So, and sometimes it's twice a day when they're at home, where they can go for free skates and do some extra stuff later in the evening after study hall. So they get lots of ice time. Their skills get better. Their timing on the ice gets better. They're playing with better players. They have to become better players to get on the ice and play in games and do all those things. So it was a really good weekend. That's 4 games in 4 days. That's a lot of hockey, and there was a lot of travel involved in there. So you're staying in hotels, you're just sleeping, and you're trying to get studying hall in there too, and maybe some sightseeing. Maybe that's going on as well on occasion. So it's a busy time, and the players are full value for having the energy and the determination to play hard in 4 games and win all 4 of them.
Player development has been a huge emphasis in this episode, as it is in every edition of this Buffaloes podcast, always preaching about how huge it is. Gordie Tumilson does. But this team was on about a 3-game losing streak heading into this past week, and they've been playing against really good teams as the season went along, Gordie. Like, as their record got better, they played against better competition. But now at this point, coming back down to play against, competition that's more on their level. How huge is getting to play against that really good competition for this team individually to help them translate into good team success, making sure still not to play down to the opponent, but bringing your best from the lessons you've learned against those really good teams.
Well, you said it right there, the lessons learned against the big guys. And of course, if you're not playing against somebody quite as good, that makes your game a little bit, and you have more success just even on a one-on-one situation. Anytime or 3-on-2 or any kind of a play where the other team isn't just unbelievably good and they get skilled and they can take away your game just because of their the vast experience or extra skills. Now you've got a chance to actually do some extra things. So you've learned from the best. Now you take it back and play somebody not quite as good, and you can kind of almost emulate those kinds of plays on those other teams, and all of a sudden you look like the really good player and feel like a good player. And boy, feeling the game I've talked to the goalies about this all the time, and any player that plays this game, you have to feel the game. It's not just a technical thing. It's not just doing the drills right. If you're going to be really good at this game, it's got to be in your blood. It's got to be flowing. It's got to be a feeling. You've got to sense the game. Hockey IQ is huge. All of those things. So yeah, playing a lesser team after playing really good teams, that doesn't hurt, and you're right by not playing down, still playing at the same high level, but now having more success at that level.
For sure, for sure. And they played the Indigenous Sports Academy yesterday, another team that's within their realm, but things are gonna get a bit tougher here, Gordie. Coming up tomorrow and Super Bowl Sunday. Of course, it is the CSSHL, so playing earlier in the day on the Sunday. 10 a.m. for all the football fans on the team. That's a bonus for them. But going up against a team that is going to be heavy favorites in these games. Rink Hockey or Prairie Hockey Academy White U17 Prep 25-1-0-0-1 the season, fourth in the CSSHL. Kind of a David versus Goliath story heading into this weekend, huh, Gordy?
Yeah. Yep. That's okay. We're getting some wins. We'll battle really hard. We'll try really hard. We'll have more successes on an individual basis than we may have on a team basis. Of course, if we have more successes individually, those equate to more success as a team generally. We're hoping our goalies will continue to be as good as they've been all season long for us. Bielman and Moreau have been super for us all year long, and we expect them to be, really ready and to backstop us to even a better result than we've had in the past. So, yeah, look forward to the games and learning some more about who we are as individuals and as a team.
These games are going to be played at the Barkman Arena in Cairnport, Saskatchewan. Games can be seen on Flow Sports this weekend as the U17s look for some upsets, maybe one at least against Prairie Hockey Academy. Gordy, we're going to take a quick break here, and I'll be back with you to talk about the youngins, the U15s, as well as the U18 females to wrap up our segment this week on the Buffaloes podcast with Gordie Tumilson here on G Show Productions. Stick with us. Welcome back to this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. We've talked about the U18 male team, the U17 males, and now we're going to talk about the U15s, Gordy. Before we talk about the U18 female team, for this U15 squad, they ended up playing 4 games last weekend, winning one of them against Pacific Coast Hockey Academy and losing the first one against the Notre Dame Hounds. Close games, some close losses in there. 7-2 loss to end things off against the Minot Wolves. But on the road in Saskatchewan, take me through, the what went down in these games. Playing against some solid competition that this team could have also beat as well.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Just so people know, I'm looking into my left lots because there's a lot of notes and information for me there, so that I speak logically and truthfully about what goes on. So I'm not trying to ignore the screen or the people in front of me. Yeah, we had 3 really good games prior to the last one. The last one was a kind of an ugly fourth game in 4 days deal, and unfortunately, we played poorly right from the goalie out, and we like to forget that kind of a game. It was an early game. It was an 8 o'clock in the morning game, and even though our guys practice at 7 in the morning every day when they're at home, that's their 7 to 8, 8:15 is their practice ice back in Pilot Mound. This young group, I guess, after 3 hard games, by literally one goal in all the games. So they're battles and battles and battles and battles right to the end. I think they were tired, and in the early morning sort of caught up to them. So we'll forget the Minot game, and the other 3 games were all close. Could have gone either way, and good on our guys because we've been beaten by some of these teams before by a lot more goals, and we fought hard and we got a win and 2 1-goal losses. So good on our kids. They're starting to really, come together finally, if not finally, not only as a team, but individually, skill levels jumped up and their confidence level. When you're getting whipped by teams early, well, your confidence takes a beating and you're almost scared to make a play and scared to do this and scared to do that. They're past that now and they're doing pretty well as individuals. That makes the team scores and games a lot closer.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And yeah, sometimes it's just like you said, three hard-fought games, playing an early one to end off the weekend. Even though you're used to it, game is a lot different than practicing, and a lot more physicality that goes into a weekend, especially with how close things were. But for this team, they'll be on up against Prairie Hockey Academy tonight, 6:15 at Ed School. And then playing two more games against OHA Edmonton, 1 p.m. tomorrow at the Edge, and as well as playing the Notre Dame Hounds at 9:15 a.m. on the Sunday in Calgary, Alberta. Some winnable games in there, even though it's about the individual, like we talk about, Gordie. But this team looking to continue to come together, trying to build good habits heading into their playoff games that they'll be playing eventually.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think I talked to the kids on our Tuesday goalie meeting, and all the goalies, of course, always think they can win every game. It's hope runs eternal for these kids. It's amazing, but how beat up they are sometimes. But yeah, I know the goalkeepers all thought that the two of them in this particular age group thought they could win all three games. They've got to play their best, and the rest of the team's got to play their best. But the one thing about the U15 kids, they're a bit younger and they're still a little bit more energetic, and they don't take losing quite as hard. They seem to bounce back easier or whatever. So hopefully they'll just forget that last game last weekend and be full of pea and vinegar for the weekend and come up with a win or two or even three. Anything's possible with these guys. You just never know.
Yeah, and for this team, they will be playing against this competition, of course, on the road in Calgary, Alberta, at the Edge. All of these games can be seen on Flow Sports if you want to catch your U15 Buffaloes, or if anyone's interested in watching some U15 prep hockey. Onto the U18 prep females, Gordie. They weren't playing any CSSHL competition or any AAA competition. No, they're playing college players, playing against the Dakota College at Bottineau team in the Bottineau Community Arena in Bottineau, North Dakota. Lots of time saying Bottineau here, Gordy, but first game, they end up losing it 2-1. The second game, though, a 3-2 victory. We talked about how huge the experience was going to be for this team to get to actually experience playing against college players and what the college style could be like. To actually go out there and compete in two close games and come out with a win, this must be an ecstatic Pilot Mound Buffaloes U18 female group right now.
Yeah, the girls came out and lost. They played Botno once last year. Lost in a one goal overtime game last year, and went down and then went ahead and lost in the first game. We had an American goalie playing against them. Still couldn't beat those suckers down there, but we did win the second game 2-1 and then 3-2 win. Good to Alex Mills, our goalie from Colorado, came up just a little short in her game, although she made about 35 saves in the 2-1 victory or loss. And then Brooklyn Adams, our veteran of second year goalkeeper, managed to get a 3-2 overtime win. And so good on them. The one comment they all made was that the lighting wasn't very good in Botno. They got an old rink down there, and
Mm.
they're still using 40-watt bulbs, I think. And so if you had a vote from the goalies, they'd all vote for more lights to see the puck better. But nonetheless, it didn't seem to hurt their concentration nor their finding the puck in scrambles and other things. So it all worked out okay and made the road trip good. And they get to see another U.S. college campus and see what goes on and get an idea. And of course, the teams down there get to see our players and in some cases may sign them if the schooling and the hockey all seems to work out okay. So that'll be fun to see.
Exactly, Gordy. And I mean, college sports, university sports, Division 1 isn't the only place these players can play. There's these schools like Assiniboine Community College, as mentioned before, Dakota College at Bottineau,
Yep.
Minot State. These types of schools that these players have a pretty good shot of playing at if they're good students and they're hard workers and they have some skills. And one player that has shown to have some really good skill in her first year is Ashlyn Cuffler, Gordy, scoring 2 goals in that 3-2 win. Seems like she's a player that, of course, leading in points heading into that past weekend, but seems like she's kind of starting to be the one, if anyone is going to take over, she is the one to do it in games.
Ashton Kutcher's got a great hockey IQ. She is, and she's got nice little in tight skills. She's a centerman. She really does nice stuff. She's a bit ploddy yet. I mean, she hasn't got her skating legs quite developed, and that's okay because she's got time. But she gets to skating faster and more even with more confidence. She's going to be quite a catch for somebody in college hockey, no doubt about it. She is a talented, smooth hockey player who dishes the puck really well. Again, the hockey IQ is right up there at the top, so we're looking for Ashlyn to do quite well. As she goes along with us, hopefully the next 2.5 years.
Yeah, I brought her up last week, had her on the show last week, and had to do it again, Gordy, because I mean, 2 goals in a win against a college team. Gotta give mention to that. But
Yeah.
they'll be taking on St. Mary's Academy in their only game of this weekend tonight, coming up soon in 2 hours' time now, as this recording is going at Pilot Mound Hockey Academy's Blackjack Stewart Arena. This team, St. Mary's Hockey Academy, a team that the Buffaloes have met, several times this season, lost 6-3 to them, most recently in the FWSSC. Talk about the mindset heading into only one game, coming off of good vibes in North Dakota.
Yeah, they're girls are looking forward to St. Mary's. We've had some success against them and played some very tight games against them, so it's going to be a good one. I got to give you an opportunity here to have a breaking news moment. I'm going to give you a scoop, or maybe I'm not. Yes, I am because I know the announcement is not going to come till next week, but I'm allowed to do this today because it's just great breaking news. Balmoral Hall, the female team out of Balmoral Hall, will be playing in the CSSHL West this
Wow.
next coming year. So they've been in the East forever, but expense wise, I guess it's become restrictive to go east all of the time. And so there's been a move, and the application to come west has been approved. And so next week there'll be an announcement that Balmoral Hall in Winnipeg will be another team in the CSSHL West, and that'll give us another team to play against on a more regular basis, obviously, than we have in the past. So that'll be all. That's just a good thing for Manitoba hockey.
Oh, no doubt about it. And Balmoral Hall has, I think they have their claim as maybe the top school historically in Manitoba for hockey at this point with the talent that they produced. I could be wrong, but that's one heck of a school, Gordy, and one that has given top teams from other leagues in Manitoba some tests throughout the years, even beating competition from the MFHL. But Gordy, it's been great getting to catch up with you. By the way, everybody, all these games in the CSSHL can be seen on Flow Sports if you have the subscription. Check out your Buffaloes, support the team, and we'll be talking more about those teams, how they did, and what's coming up as we near closer to the playoffs, Gordy, on next week's edition of the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast. Until then, you take care. See you next week.
Thanks.
Gordie Tumilson joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast to talk about the past and upcoming games for the teams in the academy for this weekend. And the weekend is pretty much wrapped up at this point for the teams in Pilot Mound. We'll run through the schedule and the scores here once again. So with the U15s, they ended up playing 2 games prior to their weekend finale today at the Ed School in Calgary, Alberta. They ended up winning their first game of the weekend 5-1 over Prairie, lost 5-2 to OHA Edmonton yesterday. A winnable game coming up today for the Buffaloes. That this game is pretty much already done at this point. I'd say they're probably at the end of it now. But of course, all of these games could be seen and can be seen on Flow Sports when it's CSSHL action for the U17s. Of course, they had that Thursday game canceled because Indigenous Sports Academy could not make it in due to the weather. So they've only played 2 games. They are playing their second game of the weekend right now against Prairie Hockey Academy in a rematch from yesterday where Pilot Mound was able to win 1-0 last night. Looking for their second win of the weekend, of course, back-to-back wins against Prairie coming up today. We'll have to wait and see what those results are. Be sure to check out Pilot Mound Hockey Academy on Twitter, PM Buffaloes on X, and any of their places. Really, Twitter's the place where they post the scores most frequently from what I've seen. But for the U18 group, they played twice this weekend, losing 10-0 to RHA on Friday afternoon and losing 11-2 to Southern Alberta Hockey Academy yesterday in the afternoon at Blackjack Stewart Arena. The U18's looking to bounce back next weekend with the games that'll be on their schedule. And then finally, for the U18s, they only played one game. That was on Friday against St. Mary's, where they gave them a battle, 3-1 loss, though. That's the result that ended up happening for Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, the U18 prep female Buffaloes on Friday. So that's all for the results. Be sure to check out for full standings in the CSSHL, gshow.ca, to check out the scores and the standings there to see where these Pilot Mound Hockey Academy teams are ranking in the standings at this point in the season. And nice to see some wins in there. Tough to see some losses, but hey, this U18 group, like we've talked about, not the most talent compared to the other teams, and going up against some really good teams this past weekend at that. But pretty cool that Pilot Mound Hockey Academy has a professional photographer basically this season taking videos. He was able to put together something pretty cool here. I believe his name is Andre. He comes from Ukraine. I believe he's the one who put this together, but take a look at this views from game day on Friday, February 9th at Blackjack Stewart Arena from the U18 Prep Female Buffaloes game against RHA against St. Mary's. Love to see that creativity out there with the great work that their photographers have been doing there down in Pilot Mound. Nice to see that and to see some game day views from, of course, a 3-1 loss, but a battle that the Buffaloes U18 prep females were in this past weekend on Friday, or this weekend that's still going as it's Sunday against St. Mary's Academy. We're going to take one more transition here, folks, before I bring you guys some final words, some final news here on episode 16 of the Buffaloes podcast, the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast, brought to you by Terrico, as you've been seeing on your screen here for the past little bit. Goaltenders and Mid-Canada Fasters and tools. Stick with me, Graham the G Show Forsyth, for a bit more here, Buffaloes Nation, after this transition. And welcome back to this edition of the Buffaloes podcast for episode 16. I had a chance to talk to Gordie Tumilson to start off this episode, and been going through the scores and what's been happening with all 4 teams that have played in the academy this past weekend, or this weekend still going up. As this episode coming a bit later on Sunday, as we've been having some technical difficulties. Thought I had to get a new battery for my computer, but it's all sorted out. We're all good. Happy to be here on this Sunday. Gonna finish off with some news here, some publicity for Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. But before we get into that, just want to say that on Wednesday it was National Girl and Women in Sport Day, or National Girls and Women in Sports Day. honoring the females playing in the academy. Of course, the Buffaloes put this out on their Twitter account, and yeah, even though this is about 4 days old, want to give congrats to all the women and the girls that are able to play sports and that have been thriving in sports. And yeah, just great to have a day where girls and women that play this great sport of hockey are recognized, as well as any other sport that you may be playing if you are a girl or an adult or whatever age you may be. It's a day that recognized all of the great women in the sports world. So great to see that. Evaluation camps for the female U18 prep program is actually coming up on March 22nd, March 23rd this year. Be sure to visit pilotmoundhockeyacademy.com for more details and check them out on social media as well for PM Buffaloes. That's where you can find them. And Kerrigan Umferville is a Division I player that's come out of this academy. So want to be like Kerrigan and have a chance to potentially live out your dream of playing at the Division I level or any other level at the college stages of hockey life. Be sure to give this camp a try. Potentially you like the fit here, Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, and hey, maybe you find that next place for yourself to play. But of course, gotta give it your all since it is an evaluation camp coming up. For PD Day, this is coming up, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. coming up next Monday on the 19th. U7s, U9s, U11s, and U13s all welcomed. It's going to be $75 per player for the full day. You get 2 ice sessions, an hour of dry land, an activity session, and a lunch, all at Pilot Mound Hockey Academy's facilities. Be sure to check out pilotmoundhockeyacademy.com for more information and to register today. And, of course, this is what I wanted to get to, the publicity for Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. Forrest Carlson, congratulations to him for winning Player of the Month. 55 points in 36 total games played this season for the Buffaloes. One of the bright spots on this year's team, and, having a pretty successful weekend for themselves. 1-1 so far heading into their final matchup against Notre Dame. But, be sure to watch this kid any chance you get. I've only been able to see some highlights. Absolutely phenomenal and a great choice for Player of the Month for Game On Magazine, as it's kind of their tradition there, right? But that's going to do it basically for this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Everybody, I've been your host, Graham, the G Show Forsyth. If you enjoyed this edition of the Buffaloes podcast for episode 16, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads of this podcast coming out. We're set to return with this podcast on Friday this upcoming week. It's going to be a lot of fun, hoping to have some players on the show. Again, might have Kurt Fortney on the show to give an academy report from his point of view. So, going to be a lot of great stuff coming up next week. Of course, Gordie Tumilson is going to be joining the show. Be sure to check out our website at gshow.ca for all the details on what that episode will feature, and we'll also have those details the day of the episode, most likely, probably in the afternoon, on our social media outlets as well. All of them, as you can see in the description of this episode. I want to thank Gordie Tumilson for taking the time out of his Friday and joining this edition of the podcast to give another update on what's happening with the games and what's coming up in the academy. Can't wait to hear from him next week. Thanks to the sponsors as well for another edition of the Buffaloes podcast, and Make Cannon Fasteners and Tools, Goaltenders, and Terrico. For supporting and continuing to support Pilot Mound Hockey Academy Hockey and G Show Productions here on the network. 2 more podcasts coming out today, folks, an MMJHL podcast and a Winnipeg Jets podcast. They'll be coming up in the next 2 hours, but for myself, Graham, the G Show Forsyth, here on the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast, I want to thank you for tuning in and wishing you all the best for the rest of this Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful week of work coming up. And for all you football fans out there, enjoy the biggest game of the year coming up. It's Super Bowl Sunday, baby. I'm going to get going. Tyson Unruh, take us away, man. Take care, everybody.